October 14, 1943. High above Nazi Germany, the sky had become a frozen graveyard. American bombers flew in tight formation, engines screaming, metal shaking. Inside those aircraft, men faced temperatures colder than -30 degrees Celsius. The air was so thin that removing an oxygen mask for half a minute meant death. But the cold wasn't what terrified them. They were watching their watches. Because once the escort fighters turned back,
For most of the journey,
they knew what
American
was coming.
B-17 flying fortresses were protected by P-47 Thunderbolts. These fighters were huge, heavily armed, and almost indestructible. German pilots avoided them. But the Thunderbolt had a fatal weakness: fuel. It simply could not fly far enough. Once the escorts reached their fuel limit, they rocked their wings, a silent goodbye, and turned back toward England. The bombers continued alone. German radar stations had been tracking them for hours. The moment the escorts disappeared, the order was given: attack. German fighters poured from the clouds. FW-19s and Bf-19s attacked head-on, firing cannons straight into bomber cockpits. Rockets ripped wings apart. Defensive guns fired desperately, but bombers were slow and heavy. By sunset, 60 American bombers were destroyed. 600 men were dead or captured. It was called Black Thursday. U.S. commanders did the math. At this rate, the bombing campaign would collapse within months. They needed a fighter that could go all the way. The answer already existed. It was called the P-51 Mustang. The Mustang was fast, elegant, and aerodynamically perfect, but it had the wrong engine. At high altitude, it lost power and became vulnerable. Both Britain and America dismissed it. It was used for ground attacks and scouting missions. A masterpiece. Wasted. Then, British engineers tried something bold. They removed the American engine and installed the Rolls-Royce Merlin, the same engine used in the Spitfire. This engine had a two-stage supercharger, allowing it to breathe at extreme altitude. The result shocked everyone. The Mustang climbed higher, flew faster, and outran German fighters. For the first time, the Allies had a fighter that could dominate the sky. But one problem remained: Germany was still too far. The solution sounded insane: drop tanks made of paper. Lightweight cardboard tanks were mounted under the wings and filled with fuel. Pilots used the fuel, then dropped the tanks before combat. Pilots laughed at them. Then they trusted them. With these tanks, the Mustang could escort bombers all the way to Berlin and fight its way home. The impossible became reality. In 1944, General Jimmy Doolittle changed everything. Fighters were no longer ordered to stay close to bombers. They were ordered to hunt. Mustangs flew ahead, behind, and deep into Germany, destroying enemy fighters on the ground and in the air. The Luftwaffe was caught completely off guard. German pilots were losing planes faster than they could be trained. Airfields were bombed. Fuel supplies vanished. By the time Allied forces landed on D-Day, Germany no longer controlled the skies. The war in the air was over. The Allied victory wasn't won by bigger bombers. It was won by one misunderstood fighter, powered by the right engine, and carried to victory by tanks made of paper. The P-51 Mustang didn't just change the war, it ended it.